Welcome back to Weeknight Mysteries podcast. My name is Eurus. I am your host, and I'm here with Rain. How are you?
Hello, everyone. Hello, Eurus. As every week, as every episode, I'm all good. How are you?
I'm good as well. Today we want to talk about a disappearance of a 21-year-old Canadian woman named Lisa Mary Young. She is a half-Indigenous Canadian woman who disappeared from Nanaimo in British Columbia, Canada on June 30th back in 2002. She had attended a local nightclub and then later several house parties before she finally accepted a ride to a fast food restaurant from a man named Christopher William Adair. We have to say his name, I guess, with caution, because this person takes legal action against people who discuss him. So we just want to say that we have no idea what Christopher did. We're just reading some information that we found online. So Lisa and her friends met this man, Christopher William Adair, earlier in the night. And he is, I guess, a person of interest in this case, to say the least, at least in my opinion, but we don't know that. And Lisa has never been found. So she seemingly goes to a nightclub to celebrate her friend's 23rd birthday party. She then meets a guy named Christopher William Adair at the nightclub. Later on, Christopher tells them that there's a bigger party happening in town. So he offers them to basically give them a ride to this other party. And shortly after they arrive at that party, they go to another house party. Then later on, Christopher Adair allegedly drives we have crazy animals in the background. Okay, we had to take a quick stop because we had a crazy animal attack happening outside of our, I guess, recording location. But now we're back. So, as I was saying, Christopher Adair gives them a ride to a different house party. Later on, since Lisa was a vegetarian, she said she was hungry, but since they only had, I guess, non-vegetarian food at that second house party, Christopher Adair offers Lisa a ride to the restaurant so she could pick up like a sandwich. There was like a sandwich shop nearby. And at some point, Lisa then texts her friend, the one that was celebrating his 23rd birthday, that these people, this Christopher Adair, took her, I believe, to another house party. That's house party number 3. And they would not let her leave. So she was just sitting in Christopher's car in the driveway. And then after that, she has never been heard from again.
Quick question. In the very last house party, who was preventing her from leaving? Just the friends? Is it like in a good kind of way? Like more of something like, come on, let's party a bit more? Or is it more in a threatening way?
So there's not a lot of information about what exactly happened there. We don't know much, so I can't say. I want to tell you a little bit about the backstory of Lisa, who she was as a person before we move forward. So Lisa Mary Young, she was the eldest child, and she was the only daughter of Don Young and Marlene Martin. She has 2 younger brothers, Brian and Robin. She grew up in Nanaimo, which is this kind of city of 100,000 people. It's across the water from Vancouver. Vancouver being a really big city in that general area of Canada's west coast, let's put it that way. She attended Brechin Elementary and Woodlands Secondary School. Her maternal grandfather, so her mother's father, was Moses Martin, who was actually a tribal chief of the Tlaquia First Nation on the west coast of Vancouver Island. I believe he was the chief of around 800 natives. So he was
A pretty big guy.
like a
Pretty important one.
pretty important person from what I can see. So what else we know about Lisa is that she was very close with her family. Her mother described her as an independent woman who was a hard worker with a hard head. Now, her friend who was celebrating his 23rd birthday was Dallas Yulee, who was an acquaintance of Lisa, and he was also the last person to hear from her. He described Lisa as an outgoing, confident, bubbly person, and he said that she was somebody you noticed right away at a party or a gathering, or whatever it was. And we also know that she, Lisa, at the time of her disappearance, she had some plans. At the time of her disappearance, she was living with a roommate, and she was living next door to her parents in Nanaimo, which I think it was a shared apartment or something like that. However, she was preparing to start a new job at that time at a call center within 2 days of her disappearance. So she had a plan to start the job. And she was also considering pursuing higher education with the hopes of becoming a television sports broadcaster because she was into fitness. She was into fitness, and I think she really wanted to maybe go into broadcasting potentially. Now, let's talk a little bit about the day when she vanished. Let's take a look at the clues that we have here. So, everything began on the night of June 29th, back in 2002, which was a Saturday. So, on Saturday evening in the summer, she left her parents' home at 11 p.m. in the evening because she had to go to a nightclub to celebrate Dallas's 23rd birthday party, which makes sense so far, right?
Yeah.
Her parents found it a bit strange, as she had a busy schedule upcoming for the next week, but I wouldn't say it's too much out of the...
Yeah, it seems like an ordinary day, and she just wanted to celebrate her friend's birthday. And yeah, like I said, nothing seems to be sketchy so far.
So far, everything's normal. So Lisa and Dallas, as they were at the nightclub, they were approached by Christopher William Adair, as I mentioned earlier. This man had invited them to a house party. Now, this house party was said to be a very massive house party. It was apparently people were talking about it in advance for like weeks in advance. It was a big thing. Apparently, the nightclub was kind of dying down at that point, and they didn't want to end their night.
Oh, so it's probably around 3 to 4 a.m.?
I think it's probably after midnight at this point
Yeah.
for sure. So he offered them a ride in his red older model Jaguar that he was driving. The car actually didn't belong to him, it belonged to his grandmother. So he was basically just a 27-year-old guy who met these two people in the nightclub, offered them a ride to this big house party. So they all went to the house party. And after some time, we don't know exactly why, they left this initial house party number 1 and they went to house party number 2 in Cathars Lake area, which is a neighborhood in Nanaimo.
Is it far away from the house party number 1?
I wouldn't say so. It's like, looks from the Google Maps like it could be like a mile or two. It's like potentially even walking distance, not that far away, within the city. When Lisa said that she was hungry, Christopher offered to take her to get some food. Around 4:30 a.m., Lisa called Dallas's cell phone, the friend who was celebrating the 23rd birthday. And the friend later stated in an interview that, and this is his quote, "Sure enough, it's Lisa on her cell phone. She goes, 'Dallas, I don't know what's going on. This guy won't bring me back. We're sitting in a driveway on Bowen Road, and he won't bring me back. I'm bored. I'm getting pissed off. And I assume that this is when they were at house party number 3. So from my understanding of this case, house party number 3 took place at Bowen Road. And it was happening at 4:30 a.m. So it's getting really late, or I would say really early. The final signal from Lisa's cell phone was traced to the Departure Bay area of Nanaimo, which is a neighborhood adjacent to the bay. Because the whole city of Nanaimo, it's kind of like adjacent to the water. It's adjacent to the Departure Bay. It's like a bay town, like a port town, I would say. When the investigation started, it's been reported that law enforcement has botched this investigation quite badly, and family is very disappointed with the way law enforcement handled the case. And this is why. So as I've said, she kind of went missing on the 29th of June, you could say, or like the early morning hours of the 30th of June. But on July 1st, the following day, Lisa's parents failed to hear from Lisa. At first, they thought it was possible that Lisa was too busy to answer her cell phone, but later they grew very concerned when Lisa's former roommate visited to ask about her whereabouts. Now, that made it clear that Lisa is missing to the family members, and they contacted the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, who told them that they had to wait 48 hours before reporting her missing. However, later on that same day, an officer came over to their residence and asked some questions about Lisa and got her picture. So it's very disappointing that they gave them the 48-hour clause, which is not a real thing as far as I understand, and they should have started investigating immediately without giving this 48-hour.
Yeah, but this was 2002. Or weren't things different back then?
I think I read somewhere that it wasn't like there. It's not a real thing. Law enforcement can start investigating immediately, and you can report someone missing like immediately.
Even back then?
Yeah, I think so.
I see. I always thought it's only like during the recent, a new development.
I don't think so. I think it was always like that, as far as I can tell. So police eventually concluded that foul play was likely involved after Lisa left house party number 2, and subsequently several searches were conducted in remote areas in and near Nanaimo, revealing nothing. So law enforcement think that after Lisa left with Christopher Adair, shortly after, some sort of foul play had occurred. Which so far the story still adds up. Like it seems like something bad happened right after that house party number 2. In late July of 2002, which is basically a month after Lisa had already vanished, police finally questioned Christopher Adair, the driver of the red Jaguar. Lisa's mother was taken by the law enforcement to have a short meeting with Christopher Adair in the police station. I believe it was a tactic used by law enforcement to potentially somehow get more information from Christopher Adair. Apparently, law enforcement even told Lisa's mother to first hug Christopher and then ask him, "Where is Lisa?" But it didn't work out, and later on, it was reported that this was kind of strange. Law enforcement were asking Lisa's mother to hug Christopher, who is prime person of interest. It's kind of a strange tactic.
I mean, if it worked, it wouldn't be that strange. Maybe
Exactly.
they were experimenting.
Potentially, but the family thinks it's not good.
Yeah,
to do
definitely
this.
not.
Now he replied, "I can't. I'm sorry. I don't mean to disrespect your family." It's pretty strange. This guy who was last known to be with her, he says that
He can't?
He can't, and he doesn't want to disrespect the family. It's pretty strange situation so far. The man was eventually released, and no charges were laid. Police later stated that the driver, like many others involved in the case file, this person is simply a person of interest. The Jaguar was eventually located and seized by law enforcement for inspection and later released. It was determined that the car was owned by the driver's grandmother, who subsequently sold the Jaguar and also threatened to sue over talk that could implicate her grandson in the disappearance. Police did not begin searching for Lisa until she had been missing for 2 months already, leaving the job for her relatives to do on their own. So it's kind of strange because law enforcement did not start searching for Lisa for over 2 months, which is bizarre. The first official search happened way late.
It's pretty bad. Pretty bad.
Yeah, there's some additional information coming from this case from 2020, so 4 years ago. In December of 2020, the law enforcement conducted searches related to the case at 2 locations in Nanaimo, as well as part of Montreal Natural Sanctuary. So one of the locations that was searched was actually house party number 1. And now you might think, how does this make any sense, right? Because they first went to house party number 1, then to house party number 2, then Christopher took Lisa to house party number 3, and that was the last anyone ever heard from Lisa. So why are they going back to house party number 1 location to search for Lisa, right?
I don't find it as strange as the fact that they only did this in 2020. Yeah, that was strange.
So the story here is that I can't really verify this, but it seems like what the family believes, or I don't know if it's the family, but there is this website online called lisamaryyoung.ca for Canada, and they provide some their own theory, I would call it, that potentially after house party number 3 ended, Christopher took Lisa back to house party number 1, which some claim that was a house where a local drug dealer was living, and that person murdered Lisa, and then that person buried her remains in the backyard of house party number 1 location. And we even have satellite images, like satellite footage from that backyard, believe it or not, at 827 Nanaimo Lakes Road that shows how the location, how the backyard changed over the years. With the first image coming from 1996, which is 6 years prior to her disappearance. The second image is now 2003. You could see the images, right?
Yeah.
And you could see that back in 1996, it seems like, and basically what we're looking at is the back patio. If you could imagine, there's this big house, it's kind of fancy, and then there is this back patio area. So as you can see, the back patio area seems like it started to be constructed in 2003, because you could see in 1996, it appears that there is nothing there.
Yeah.
But in 2003, something started to be built there. So the theory provided on the website that I referred to earlier is that potentially the person from house party number 1 who lived in 827 Nanaimo Lakes Road, which this house has been sold multiple times ever since, so that person doesn't live there anymore. But the claim here is that maybe that person somehow killed Lisa, and then they put her body, disposed of her remains under this slab in the backyard, and then they built a patio over. And over the years, new homeowners, they built even more stuff over this area. But now in 2020, we know that law enforcement came back 18 years after Lisa's disappearance, and they tried to dig up this location. And I believe that They found nothing of interest, but we don't know how extensive the search was because law enforcement is not sharing any information about their search results. So, what do you make of this?
I kind of doubt this, at least this part of the story, mainly because of the fact that you mentioned that the final signal was somewhere around Departure Bay.
Yes, the final signal was somewhere around Departure Bay, and that's actually a good point because Departure Bay is actually
On the other side.
on the other side of the town. It's actually quite far. A little further away from house party number 1 location. Because if you could imagine the whole city of Nanaimo, it's basically this kind of coastal city that expands wider as you move away from the bay, if that makes sense. Because the bay is not that big, but then as you go more inland, the city of Nanaimo kind of expands. So Departure Bay neighborhood is really, really close to the waterfront, and the house party number 1 was happening way back into the neighborhoods of Nanaimo. So that is true. Her last phone signal almost indicates that Lisa's last location was somewhere closer to the bay. However, just because law enforcement came back and actually did some sort of a search in that house makes me think that maybe there is credibility to the story, because if law enforcement never showed up, then yeah, we could always say that maybe this is all, just wild speculation. But the fact that law enforcement came and searched
In 2020.
in 2020, house party number 1, which is in the opposite direction from where Lisa's last phone ping was at,
There might have been a tip.
there might be a tip. Now, also you know how like phone pings and things of that nature, they don't really exactly pinpoint location. So I wonder if there is a chance that maybe this location is actually the ping doesn't really tell us much.
Really? Because in my head, I was always thinking something like, actually, Lisa was in the Departure Bay, somewhere around that body of water.
Yeah.
Because, usually when people get lost, they eventually would be found underwater.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this YouTube channel, remember? The guy who kept on diving and kept on seeing cars and missing
Oh,
people
yeah.
in the body of water. And so I always assumed that since the last ping of the phone was somewhere around that area in Departure Bay, there might be a chance that Lisa's remains are in there.
I found information that I think there, at least from one source, that the phone must have been destroyed or discarded soon after Lisa last spoke to Dallas at house party number 3. So I think there's a chance that maybe the phone got
Stolen?
thrown into the water to get rid of it.
So even if Lisa was not in Departure Bay or within that area, something bad must have happened there. Because she wouldn't throw her phone.
No, I think at that point someone else would have thrown the phone if that was the scenario.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, the biggest, I would say, elephant in the room here is Christopher Adair, right? The guy who was last known to be driving around that red Jaguar. And I want to tell you a little bit more about Christopher Adair because he has a pretty interesting backstory.
Are you sure about that? Maybe you will get sued.
It's all alleged, and it might not even be real, what I'm about to say. So, Christopher, at the time of the disappearance, and this is all, by the way, what I'm saying comes from lisamaryyoung.ca. So I'm just basically reading. I'm not even saying that this is my opinion. I'm just basically reading stuff right now. Chris was a friendly and charismatic 23-year-old from a wealthy family of lawyers and businessmen. So between 2000 and 2002, he has been named in several civil lawsuits. 2 months prior to Lisa's disappearance, he was released from Kamloops, which is correctional center. Kamloops is like the city in Canada. It's a little bit further away. I think he was from Kamloops. He was just visiting Nanaimo because his grandparents lived nearby to Nanaimo. So he was there just visiting for the summer break, I think. So he served a 10-month sentence there for fraud-related charges, plus an assault which may have occurred in the courtroom during the trial. So he had served the prison time. Now, I'm trying to figure out if he served prison time prior to the disappearance of Lisa or afterwards. I can't really make this information out. I might find it in a little bit here in my notes, but let's continue on. Chris was located when Kamloops law enforcement arrested him around July 20th on charges of fraud and theft stemming from an incident in Kamloops a year earlier. In an unusual move, 2 days later, the courts transferred the two charges from Kamloops to Nanaimo. Although only the theft charge had arrived, there was no mention of the fraud charge after it was transferred out of Kamloops. So I think this entails potentially that there might be some, I don't know, like privilege happening here where Chris maybe doesn't get, I guess, hit as hard as he's supposed to get hit for the crimes that he may have committed. I think that's what we're talking about here. Now, Chris was transported back to Vancouver Island and released. The next day, he was questioned about Lisa's disappearance. So when they questioned this guy, right, they first booked him for a separate crime, or like, I think multiple crimes that he did in his hometown of Kamloops. And then 1 day later, after they released him, that's when they asked him about Lisa's disappearance. Pretty strange, right?
Definitely.
So law enforcement, the family members and the law enforcement were actually threatened by lawsuits by Christopher's family, the wealthy and powerful family, allegedly. Law enforcement then threatened Lisa's family with obstruction of justice. And in early 2003, they received a letter, like Lisa's family receives a letter from law enforcement formally cutting them off of any further information about their daughter's case. Christopher, on the other hand, attended 1 year of law school in Kamloops and then worked for a shady investment brokerage. I love how it's described, shady investment brokerage, and this is all coming from LisaMaryYoung.Canada. He was working in a shady investment brokerage. That's all we have. We don't have a name. It's just a shady investment spot.
We don't know what that is, but we know it's shady.
Yeah, it's shady. It was a co-worker actually from that same company who years later offered a $50,000 reward in relation to Lisa's case. So I don't know what that means. Does the co-worker suspect that Christopher had something to do with it and now he's trying to get to the bottom of it? Or does he think that Christopher had nothing to do with it and he just is generally wants to help out the family? I have no idea what's happening there.
I mean, it's just pretty odd that a co-worker somehow with a connection with Christopher actually donated something that much.
Yeah, it's I'm sure it has to mean something. I just don't know what it means. Does it mean that the coworker suspect Christopher of doing something bad, or does the coworker generally just want to find out what happened to Lisa?
Yeah.
So I don't know what's the angle being played here. We have more details about Christopher Adair. So in May of 2000, so this is definitely before Lisa disappeared. 2 years before Lisa disappeared, there was a lawsuit between him and a Nanaimo woman. And a few months later, he was sued by a bank. In 2001, he was sued by Nanaimo Payday Loan Company. And in 2002 and 2003, he was sued by the courts, possibly for unpaid criminal fines. He was also sued twice by Nanaimo Mini Storage in 2003 and then later on in 2014. It's kind of crazy because this guy was 27, and at this age to now already be involved in so many lawsuits, it's a kind of crazy thing. But all of these lawsuits seem to be like fraud-related things. They're not really like hard crime as far as I can see, at least so far. So Christopher had several prior criminal convictions in Alberta and British Columbia. Court records show several more convictions between 2000 and 2002. And in 2001, he was convicted in Kamloops for 2 counts of fraud and sentenced to 9 months in jail. Okay, so he was sentenced in Okay, so he served jail time prior to Lisa's disappearance. That's what I was looking for. He served a 9-month jail sentence prior to Lisa's disappearance. So that's interesting. And then this website makes some pretty, I would say, like direct statements. And so I'm just going to quote the statements. He did not kill Elisa, but he drove her to the place where she was severely beaten. He may have taken part. Hours later, he drove off Lisa and her soon-to-be killer back at the man's home, across the street from, basically, this website is referring to house party number 1, the same location as the first house party. Yep. Soon after, Chris left town, back to Kamloops. And we have no information. I don't know who was this. I have no way of verifying that any of these people went back to house party number 1. So there seems to be some sort of insider information that we just don't have about Lisa and Christopher going back to house party number 1, where Lisa was there. Foul play happened. So, but we have no idea how to verify this at this point. But it's worth discussing now. Another strange thing that happened is related to the car. Remember the car? The red Jaguar? It was actually steam cleaned before law enforcement even got the chance to look at it. And that potentially removed any evidence, DNA evidence or something like that. But you have to also take into account that, as far as I understand, the car was only obtained 3 weeks or 4 weeks or something like that after Lisa went missing. So I don't know when it got steam cleaned. I don't know if it got steam cleaned literally like the next day, which would be quite eyebrow-raising activity. But if it was steam cleaned maybe 2 weeks after, randomly, then maybe it wouldn't even be that suspicious. But we just know it was steam cleaned.
It's just pretty funny to me knowing that your car hasn't been steam cleaned ever.
No, it's a dirty car. I never steam clean it. So for me, it's definitely a suspicious activity. But for maybe these people, it's an old model Jaguar, like an antique.
It could be a thing, yeah.
It could be a thing that they did on a regular basis, or they were hiding evidence.
Possibly.
Yeah, everything's a possibility here. So Christopher himself, he actually left the country on multiple times. It is alleged on this website that soon after he left the country, first he relocated to Japan, and then later on he settled in Turkey before he's reportedly, and he is still in Turkey allegedly. And he still lives in Turkey. Christopher Adair. It's kind of closer to us now. Maybe we could fly there and ask some questions.
I would rather just enjoy Turkey.
I mean, but we could literally go to Turkey. It's not that far away. It's like a 50 euro flight away from
Here
us.
and there, yep.
Yeah. Flights here are cheap. Okay, so that's basically what we have in this case. I'm just trying to go over some information and see if I have missed some key points here about Lisa's disappearance, but it doesn't seem like I've missed that much. We do have a little bit of an extended timeline of what happened in the house party number 1. I think it's more about this is the unverified information. Oh, that's right. One last thing that I forgot to mention, quite incriminating. I don't know exactly when. I think I've seen different kind of statements here. I'm actually going to try to find this particular detail. Give me one moment. Maybe did I not take this
Could you somehow
information.
remember it from your memory?
I have it. I
Okay.
do remember it from my memory, but I want to read it. I want to read it because I think I want to read it more. And I think this is now coming from Wikipedia, so a little bit more of a. I mean, on Wikipedia, they won't allow completely unverified stuff. So this is something interesting, right? So what I want to tell you about is house party number 1. Remember, it's a house and it has neighbors. So a neighbor of house party number 1 actually called in a tip, claiming that he saw a burial taking place
Wait,
in
what?
house party number 1, I think backyard. Yeah, listen to this. Soon after Lisa went missing, the neighbor of the house party number 1 location called law enforcement, and he said he witnessed a burial. He had seen what looked like a body in a hammock in the backyard of the home, and later equipment moving soil around in the backyard. Oh, so sorry. This is not from Wikipedia. This is from Lisa Mary Young.Canada. So from the other website. But this is the information that we have. That apparently, a neighbor reported that he had potentially seen a burial happening in the back of house party number 1. He saw what seemed to be like a body in a hammock. What do you make of this?
I don't know. Maybe the neighbor was mistaken. Maybe there was someone actually like laying on the hammock and a construction was happening in the backyard.
It seems like a pretty strange time to do the construction right after this massive house party.
That's true.
It's like a very strange timing to start reconstructing everything.
Maybe it was already scheduled,
No,
pre-planned.
doesn't sound like that's what would happen in my opinion. The only thing I'm thinking is that maybe inside of the hammock, maybe there was a person, maybe it was a drunk, passed out guy.
Yeah.
Or
After the party.
After the party, or it could have been Lisa.
Could have, but
And
then the
then-
law enforcement already checked the house party number 1 location.
We
and
don't know
didn't-
how well they checked because from the Google images, we see that there's a concrete slab and there's a patio
That's true.
over
And
it. And did
they
they
only-
check the patio? Because they checked it in 2020 when the patio had been, I believe, built once, demolished, and rebuilt again.
oh, that's a lot of construction.
Yeah, because there were multiple homeowners throughout the years.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this is all the information that I have, and I would say the main key takeaways for me from this case, from the disappearance of Lisa Young, is that yeah, we have Christopher Adair, who's a strange character in this case, seems to be very defensive about his potential involvement in the case. He has even not sued, but sent out like kind of letters, like legal type letters to other
The warnings.
to other podcasts. Yeah, to other podcasts, like Case File Podcast, that really cool podcast from Australia. It's actually one of my favorite podcasts.
Yeah, I love that podcast.
Yeah, so they made like they made a show about Lisa's case in 2006, and yeah, someone sent an email to not mention any names.
It was probably a bad idea that we mentioned his name.
No, it's okay because ever since there had been multiple podcasts and videos talking about it. And I mean, come on.
We didn't say anything.
We don't say any. We're just literally discussing. I'm not even saying anything. I'm just saying that he is a character that has been connected to the case. I mean, that's not a lie. So he's definitely connected to the case in some ways. And then we have multiple house parties, but it does seem like the only concrete things that we could hold on to as of now is Lisa being in distress at house party number 3. She was bored and she wanted to go back, and these people were not letting her go. And then her phone soon after seemingly died, and the last ping is at the Bay area, the Departure Bay area. And after that, we really don't know anything.
Yeah, I mean, I also wouldn't say anything that would implicate us, but all I'm gonna say is that one thing's clear. Whatever happened to Lisa, it's not by her choice, her own accord.
She had plans.
She had
a new
plans.
job. She was moving out. So she definitely didn't run away. And there's foul play. And also law enforcement did botch the investigation. I think
Definitely.
we can agree on that one. So law enforcement didn't do a good job, that's for sure. They botched the investigation, and foul play has been committed to Lisa. I think it's fairly obvious at this point. And it's hard to say what really happened after the phone call back to Dallas, the friend who was last known to speak to.
Yeah. Is it just me, or is there a lot of like power play involved?
Yeah, seems like it.
Right?
Seems like there's some power play being involved here. But at the same time, I've seen people saying that there might not be that much. It's, I guess, it depends from what perspective you look at it, you know? So, yeah. But it's very strange and sad circumstance.
Definitely.
And we just want to talk about it here.
Of course.
Thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you very soon. Bye.
Bye.